Smells of mangoes. What is up, guys and girls? Welcome back to Bernaquilla Painting. For those of you who don't know, my name is Graham and welcome to the channel. Like myself, many of us don't work in shipping. Like many countries, here in the UK, loads of stuff comes through shipping ports in big metal containers. And in the 41st millennium, it's exactly the same, apart from they have guns on and lots of skulls. And they don't come in ships, but they come in ships. I think armoured containers look great on the tabletop. They're great for line of sight blocking, getting a bit of height advantage so you can see over terrain, getting that shot off. Also, they have their own rules, which I won't get into in this video. Today is all about my take on how I painted the armoured containers, with a bit of a modern twist. That modern twist comes from a shipping company called Maersk. You've probably seen them if you've seen shipping crates, big grey ones, blue background with a white star, black lettering. I didn't want to do the same old thing and just copy the box art, so I took to the internet and asked on Instagram, how should I paint them? I had a couple of really good ideas come through, but it was when my friend Ryan came through and said, well, how about you just paint them like the Maersk ones? But instead of saying Maersk, it says Mars. Obviously Mars being the home forge word for the Mechanicus and the Imperium. As soon as I heard this idea, I had to do it. Which takes us to today.
It's calling me, like the rainbow, it's calling me.
So first off, I primed the containers in grey. I used the Rust-Oleum grey surface primer. I went with grey because the Maersk containers are grey. It's easier for me. I don't have to then have to base coat them as well, so it's like skipping a step. It's all in one there. I decided to do a zenithal highlight on all the containers and a little bit of undershading underneath, just to give a little bit more depth, a little bit more definition and character to the actual containers. At the end of the day, they're all grey cubes essentially, so the more character that we can add to them, the better. At this point, I think I added a little too much of the white paint for the zenithal highlight. It came a little bit too thick. This is a problem that I've actually had with spray cans in the past before. I don't feel like I can control the amount and the flow of paint that's coming from the can, as well as, say, an airbrush. So I think one of the things I'm going to be doing from now on is going down the airbrush route instead of sticking to the rattle cans or the normal spray cans. So next I started working on the midtones of the container itself. So basically just tying in those blacks and those whites from the zenithal highlight and the undershading as well. After getting the midtones down, at this stage I added a couple of the edge highlights. Now on these containers, because of their gothic style, they have quite a lot of edges you can get the highlights on. Because I was going to go back and put the stencils over, I didn't want to cover them in edge highlights, so I only did from the top down where that zenithal highlight was, and then go back in later with some more details. In this I'm using Citadel paints. Obviously you don't have to use Citadel paints, that's just what I have to hand. That's what I use for my paints at the moment. I am venturing into a little bit more like Vallejo, scale 75, army painter ranges, especially their washes. I've been looking at to get some of those and give those a try. So that might be another video in the future, how they compare side by side. So if you want to see something like that from me, more of a review style video, let me know in the comments and I can get that sorted for you. So I got loads of images for the Maersk logo and their containers. Make sure I'm getting the right look and aesthetic for the container. But this is where I started to struggle. Being full of excitement with a new project and not many brains, I decided to go all gung-ho and straight into the stencils with not much planning, because I'm an idiot. Don't get me wrong, I had an idea of how I was going to do it, but that didn't set me in very good standing with how many problems I was going to face. And it would have been a lot quicker to sit down and plan out how I was going to do it first. So I used what I had to hand, which wasn't masking tape, it was duct tape. So I started with the simplest part of the design itself. The duct tape was too thick to get a good seal on the high detailed containers, and it was letting paint from my airbrush through, not getting crisp lines whatsoever. Now you would think it would be that the duct tape leaves a sticky residue when you peel it off. That didn't happen whatsoever. I didn't have a single problem with that, turns out. But it was really the duct tape being too thick and the miniature being too detailed. So with all this happening, I had to go to the shop. It's road trip time.
Accessories.
Yeah, I'm not getting this one.
Oh, cheers.
So I ended up going for the multi-surface frog tape instead of just bog standard stuff, because it claims to have a anti-paint technology. Basically what that means is that it leaves you with cleaner lines when you take the duct tape off. So for miniatures and terrain and things, I thought, yeah, why not? Give it a go. And plus it's green. And to be honest, I'm just a sucker for marketing gimmicks. Honestly, I have no clue if it actually worked or not. Now, with masking tape, I thought all the problems I had with the duct tape would now be solved. Until they weren't. I came across two problems. Yes, the duct tape was too thick, but it was also the detail on the miniatures themselves that gave me a hard time. The shape and the angles of the Gothic style was proving to be a problem. In hindsight, if I spent a little bit more time cutting the tape around the edges and the corners, I probably could have done it. But I'm lazy. Amongst getting the sizes of the letters wrong and even missing letters. Green! There's only 4 letters in Mars! Yes, I know there's only 4 letters in Mars. I'm sorry. The second problem was the larger of the two, and that was with me. I didn't have the skill with an X-Acto blade to cut out the shapes of the letters accurately enough. I tried this 3 or 4 times, no luck whatsoever. I could not get the right angle of the letters, the shape of the letters, and the size of the letters as well. I just could not get them to how I wanted them. So that got me thinking, what if I just freehanded it? Well, it turns out this is another technique that I haven't actually tried before, apart from doing it on a moon, on a banner, and some simple rust effects on my Space Marines. Also, with this being a lot larger than that, all the mistakes are going to come through easily. So what started off as quite a daunting task now, I started getting into a rhythm for it as I was stenciling out and sketching out almost the template on the container itself. I first blocked in the letters with thinned down black paint, so it was easier to correct any mistakes if I came across any. Once that was dry, I blocked in more layers and layers of paint until I reached full opacity. Yes, I just used the word opacity. Opacity, 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 opacity. Now, freehand by nature is tricky. You have to go back and forth a lot. At least I found that I did while doing this project. Correcting little mistakes, little hiccups that I made on the straight lines, getting those angles of the white star correct so it looks like the symbol itself. What I found the most difficult was keeping a steady hand to keep those lines crisp, obviously all being geometric shapes. Little things like that.
It's calling me. Like the rainbow.
Just make sure you're not putting too much pressure on yourself. Take your time. In no way, shape or form I'm saying, and I'm an expert at this, a little bit of patience. If you do it wrong, fine, go get the other colour and just go over it again until it's right. The more time you give yourself and the more patience you have, the better the outcome will be, especially with something as simple as lettering. Once the lettering was done, I wanted to add a little bit of detail to the letters themselves. Now on the containers, the Merscav, there's no detail, they're just black blocks. But being on the tabletop, I wanted them to be a little bit different, so I added a little grey highlight to the edges, just so they pop out a little bit more. I think with freehand, it's a lot of back and forth until you get it to the point that you want it. I think the two main key points to freehand are be patient, you're not going to do it quickly. And the second is don't let anyone tell you what is the finishing point. If you're happy with it, then you're happy with it. This is your artwork, this is your hobby, this is something that you enjoy. Don't let anyone else tell you that, oh yeah, that's rubbish, or you need to improve on that, that's awful, you can't submit it into that competition you were wanting to submit it into. It's your hobby, enjoy it for you. The last thing I wanted to go over is the weathering. So how I weather things, I like a good rusty weathered kind of look, especially with something that I think has been through the wars a bit, and containers being moved to planet, different location to different location, they're going to get battered and rusty, and they're going to get hit by the elements, so they're going to be nice and rusty. So that's what I'm going to do with these. First thing I do when I do my rust effects or chipping effects is I get a little sponge and I take some of the mid-tone colour, preferably a little lighter than usual. I stipple that mid-tone colour until it's almost gone on the sponge. Then I take the sponge and I stipple it on to the raised areas, so where you would find chips and rough areas or where things been knocked, and then a little bit more inside on flat areas, closer to those more angled areas and chipped areas. I do that all over the miniature. Then after I do that, I go in with a medium light brown, and then with a very fine paintbrush I depict each chip, or make a chip larger, or just completely encompass one area in what is going to be rust. So once I've got those lighter brown tones of the rust down, I then take a dark brown and a black, mix that in with each other a little. Then I add that to the upper parts of the rust that I've already painted, so it looks like the lower rim or the lower lip is reflecting light from the sun or any light source that you have. Also, the reason why I use the very darkest now is to depict where I want the darkest or the most cavernous parts of the rust, creating shade. So you've got that light and you've got that dark in one area. Then I get a medium brown, and just on the larger parts of the rust I just start taking off the harsh lines between the light brown and the dark brown, so it just adds a little bit more definition. Once I've done that, you get some skag brown or a very light brown, and then you thin it down to a very, very thin wash, and you start adding that in streaks, in vertical lines down your piece. This makes it look like water has ran rust down the, in this instance, container. It makes things look like they've stood there for a very long time. Using that really light brown wash is a really easy way of getting those streaky, rusty effects. Just makes your miniature pop out a little bit more. Lastly, I take a little bit of gunmetal silver and just paint over where the control panels, any hinges of doors or anything like that. A little bit of null oil wash on there, or dark wash. Hit it with a little bit more of a silver or a bright silver metallic paint, and you're sorted. So So that was my take on the Imperial Containers scatter terrain. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you liked it, give it that thumbs up on the like button. Also, if you like the episode or you like the modern take on the containers I did today, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And remember, if you want to see any more videos like this, again from me at Burn Aquila Painting, hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell icon so you get all the notifications. And until next time, stay safe out there, guys. Hey guys, just a quick one. Just make sure you're looking after yourselves out there in this global pandemic at the moment. I know it's a little bit freaky, but just make sure you're washing your hands, you've got sanitizer on you at all times, you're not going out if you don't need to, and just make sure you're looking after yourselves and looking after the people around you, okay? Peace, we'll make it through.